Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. I'm pretty excited for this one. We're going to be diving into something pretty powerful today. We're going to be talking about how a 30-day, just a focused 30-day meditation practice and drawing on like the core of Buddhist wisdom can unlock real change in your life. I think with everything going on in the world these days, it can feel like, wow, how can I even think about inner growth?
It's so understandable to feel that way, right? There's a lot coming at us all the time, and we're often conditioned to look outside of ourselves for answers.
Yeah.
Like, where's that quick fix? Where can I find fulfillment? And so then the idea of actually going inward to cultivate something powerful within, it can feel kind of strange at first, almost counterintuitive. And yet, the ancient wisdom of Buddhism and even modern psychology, they're both pointing to this like wellspring of potential that's already there within us.
Yeah. And this is where that image of a seed comes in. And it's a powerful one from Buddhist thought. It's this idea that we all have this like inherent potential. Sometimes it's called Buddha nature. I love that phrase. And it's not like you need to go find it somewhere outside of yourself. It's already there. It's in your mind. And like any seed, it just needs the right conditions to grow, to blossom into something really beautiful, with peace and clarity and understanding.
Exactly. It's the recognition that this capacity for deep insight, for compassion, it's not exclusive to just, a select few. It's actually part of being human. So the practice of meditation, it becomes the way we tend to that seed, right? We give it that nourishment and the space to really flourish.
Okay, so then let's get to the heart of it. What if you, listening right now, what if you took just 30 days and really dedicated yourself to intentionally creating this space? Through meditation, and I know that can sound like a big commitment, right? To really focus for 30 days. And maybe it even sounds a bit, I don't know, abstract.
Yeah, no, it's understandable to have that hesitation for sure. It's kind of stepping into the unknown. But what's so interesting is that this isn't just some, ancient philosophy that we're talking about. It's actually being backed up by what we're learning about the brain. Scientific studies, more and more, are showing these tangible changes that happen with regular meditation practice.
That's right. We're seeing like literally increased gray matter in the brain. And these are areas of the brain that are linked to how well we focus, how we manage our emotions, even, how we connect with other people. And from that Buddhist point of view, what we're really talking about is training the mind. It's not about suppressing thoughts. It's more like guiding those thoughts towards a more peaceful state. You know that image of training a wild horse? You're not trying to break its spirit, you're guiding its energy.
And this training, this inner training, it feels even more essential in today's world. Think about it. We're constantly bombarded with distractions. Like literally our phones are buzzing with notifications, the pull of social media is everywhere. It creates this sense of like fragmentation, like we're never fully present. And meditation offers this path to reestablish that connection with ourselves and find this more grounded sense of well-being, even amidst all that noise.
Okay, so let's talk more about that, this idea of breaking free from these like modern illusions. I think that resonates so deeply with people. We're constantly told, right, that we need to buy this thing or achieve this goal or look this way, then we'll finally be happy. But then it never really lasts, right?
That's the core of illusion, isn't it? This promise of lasting happiness, but it's rooted in things that, by their nature, are fleeting and changing. And so meditation helps us step back from this constant striving, from this chase, and we begin to see that genuine contentment. It comes from within, not from some external thing or validation or possessions.
It's like we're all searching for something outside of ourselves, when really we already have it. And as Buddhist philosophy teaches us, so much of our suffering comes from being attached to these illusions, to these ideas, these beliefs of what will make us happy. And so many of them, we don't even realize we're holding on to them.
Absolutely. We become attached to specific outcomes, to this image of who we should be, how we think the world should be. And meditation offers us this way to loosen that grip gently, so we can see reality more clearly, without that filter of our fears and desires.
Now, I remember earlier you brought up this image of dirty glasses. It was really helpful. I wonder if you could share that again with our listener to help us see how meditation can clarify our perception.
Imagine trying to see the world, but it's through a pair of glasses that are smudged and dirty.
Yeah.
Your vision would be distorted, wouldn't it? You might misunderstand things, react based on incomplete information. Your reality would be blurry. Well, meditation is like taking the time to carefully clean those lenses.
I love that image.
And through consistent practice, your mental perception, it gradually becomes clearer. You start to observe your thoughts, your emotions, your patterns with a bit more objectivity, almost like they're arising and passing, but on a clean screen. And this clarity brings choice. When you can see these patterns more clearly, you're not automatically driven by them. You gain this freedom to respond in a more conscious, intentional way.
So it's not just about like calming the mind then. It's about developing this deeper, more insightful understanding of like how our minds even work and how we relate to the world.
Exactly. And while Buddhist philosophy gives us this rich framework for understanding the mind, it's fascinating to see how modern neuroscience is actually backing this up, like offering explanations for those very changes that people experience through meditation.
And this is where I get so fascinated by the science behind it all. Like, how does meditation physically lead to these changes in the brain?
Well, the key is in the brain's incredible ability to change, to adapt throughout our lives. It's called neuroplasticity. Think of it like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And so when we engage in practices like meditation, we're essentially exercising those neural pathways. And studies are showing consistently that regular meditation leads to, for example, an increase in gray matter in the hippocampus. And that part of the brain is crucial for learning and memory.
That makes total sense, right? Because by training our attention through meditation, we're essentially making those cognitive functions stronger.
Exactly. And then on the other side of the spectrum, we see a decrease in activity and even size of the amygdala. It's often called the brain's fear center. And this reduction in amygdala activity, it correlates with less anxiety and a greater ability to regulate our emotions. It's like turning down the volume on that internal alarm system,
Less reactive, more resilient. I mean, that's a huge benefit in dealing with like the daily stress of life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And these aren't just, temporary feel-good effects. These are structural changes that really help us cope with stress in the long run and find that inner balance. And then there's the default mode network, the DMN.
Ah, the DMN, that's like the brain's idle state, right? That network that's active when we're not really focused on a specific task, like when our mind wanders or we get lost in self-referential thoughts.
Precisely. And when the DMN is super active, it pulls us away from the present moment.
Yeah.
And start ruminating about the past or worrying about the future. And what's so cool is that focused attention meditation, where you're intentionally bringing your awareness to something like your breath, it's been shown to actually quiet the DMN. So it creates this space for presence, for stillness, for a deeper sense of inner peace. It's like hitting the mute button on all that mental chatter.
I think everyone listening can relate to that desire, right? To mute that chatter, especially in this world where we're constantly on.
Absolutely. And, it doesn't stop there. The positive ripple effects of meditation, they extend beyond just the individual. Research suggests it can actually foster increased empathy and compassion. Because when we cultivate that deeper awareness of our own internal world, of our experiences, we naturally develop a better understanding of what connects us as humans, our desires, our struggles. This leads to more fulfilling relationships, a stronger sense of community, and even wiser decision-making. Because we're less driven by those impulsive reactions, we're more in tune with the broader impact of our choices.
It really does sound like this profound inner journey with outward benefits. So, for someone listening who's like, yeah, I'm drawn to this, but maybe a 30-day commitment feels a bit overwhelming, like climbing a mountain. What's your invitation to them to begin? What are some first steps they can take?
Well, the most important thing is to make that first step feel manageable, right? A 30-day journey starts with just one breath. So I'd say first, start small. Even dedicating just 5 minutes a day, that's powerful. Find a quiet space, sit comfortably, and just notice your breath, that natural rhythm of breathing in, breathing out. Don't worry if thoughts come up. Just gently guide your attention back to the breath.
So there's no pressure to achieve some kind of special state right away.
No, not at all. My second tip would be aim for consistency. It's like nurturing a plant. Regular attention is key. So try to meditate at the same time each day, whether it's first thing in the morning to set the tone, or maybe before bed to wind down. It becomes part of your rhythm.
Like a mindful pause in the day.
Precisely. And if silence feels hard or you're not sure where to begin, try using mantras or guided practices. A mantra is just a simple word or phrase. You repeat it silently to yourself to anchor your attention. And there are so many great meditation apps out there, especially for beginners, that offer structured sessions and support.
Those are such practical, encouraging starting points. It's a good reminder that, even a journey of 1,000 miles, it begins with a single step, or in this case, a single breath.
Exactly. And, any journey of self-discovery, it takes a certain courage to look inward. So even committing to these few moments of meditation each day, it's an act of self-compassion, recognizing your potential for growth.
That's a lovely way to frame it, like an act of kindness towards yourself.
And the truth is, you have everything you need for this journey. already inside of you. That stillness, awareness, that potential for change, it's all there. The willingness to start, that's the biggest step. So I'll ask again, are you ready to take that first step to unlock that inner power?
Now, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about how this inner work we're doing starts to ripple outward. So in part 2, we're going to explore what we call the ripple effect of mindfulness, and how cultivating this inner peace can transform not only your own experience, but also your interactions with everything around you.
It's interesting, right? Because we tend to think of meditation as something you do alone, but the impact, it seems to go far beyond ourselves.
That's such a good point. And while, yes, we often meditate in solitude, the effects are definitely not isolated. Think of dropping a pebble into a pond, you know? That initial splash, it's small. But the ripples, they spread out and they touch every part of the water. Mindfulness works a lot like that. The changes you're making inside through meditation, they start to influence how you move through life, how you connect with others.
Okay, so let's dive into this, the power of presence. We've touched on how meditation brings us into the present moment, but why is this so important? What makes this focus on the now so transformative? Well, in our modern lives, as we've talked about, our minds are pulled in so many directions. We dwell on the past. We anxiously anticipate the future. We're often on autopilot, reacting to things habitually without even realizing it. And the Buddhist teachings, that emphasis on the present moment, it's so powerful because it's the only reality we actually have. The past, it's just a memory. The future, it's just a projection. Only now is real.
It's like we're missing out on the richness of life by not being fully present.
That's it. Mindfulness, then, is about intentionally bringing your attention to this present moment without judgment. It could be your breath, the sensations in your body, the sounds around you, the emotions that are arising. And when you cultivate this non-reactive awareness, you start to break free from those habits. So instead of just being swept away by stress or anger, you create space. You can observe those feelings and then choose a more skillful way to respond.
You mentioned a story earlier about Sarah, I think. Can you tell our listeners a bit more about how this focus on presence impacted her life?
Oh, Sarah. Yes, she had been struggling with chronic anxiety for years. Her mind was just a constant whirlwind of worries and racing thoughts. And so she started practicing mindfulness meditation just 10 minutes every morning on the recommendation of her therapist. And at first, she was frustrated. She felt like her mind was even busier. She was like, is this even working? But then one day during this stressful situation at work, something shifted. She noticed that panic starting to rise, but for the first time she realized that these were just thoughts and sensations. She didn't have to get swept away by them. And this ability to just be present with her anxiety, instead of being consumed by it, that was a turning point for her. Over time, her anxiety significantly decreased, and she felt a much greater sense of inner calm and self-trust.
Wow, that's such a powerful example of how just being present can really interrupt those cycles of reactivity. And it shows how mindfulness isn't about ignoring difficult emotions. It's about changing how we relate to them.
Exactly. It's about observing without getting caught up in them, without being controlled by them. And Sarah's story, it's not unique. Many people find that mindfulness helps them navigate all sorts of challenges with more clarity, resilience, and grace.
Okay, now, another concept that can be a little tricky to understand is this idea of non-attachment. Sometimes it can sound like it means you're supposed to be cold or indifferent. Can you clarify what this principle really means in Buddhist philosophy and how it connects to meditation?
I totally get why that interpretation comes up. It can sound a bit detached, right? But actually, non-attachment in Buddhism is not about suppressing emotions or shutting yourself off from the world. It's about freeing ourselves from the suffering that comes from clinging to things that are constantly changing, from always craving pleasure and trying to avoid pain.
And I remember you used the analogy of holding sand to explain this.
What
Would
about
you
it?
mind sharing that again? It was really vivid.
Yeah, of course. Imagine holding a handful of sand. If you squeeze your fist tight, trying to hold on to every grain, what happens? The sand slips through your fingers, right? But if you open your hand, if you relax your grip, then the sand can rest gently in your palm. And life's a lot like that. When we cling too tightly to our desires, to specific outcomes, even to our identities, we set ourselves up for suffering because everything is impermanent. Everything is always changing.
So non-attachment is about accepting that impermanence and letting go of that need for control, for things to be a certain way.
Yes, exactly. And meditation is really helpful for cultivating this. Through consistently observing our thoughts, our emotions, we come to see their fleeting nature. We learn they don't define us, and we don't have to get swept away by them. This creates a sense of inner freedom, and it reduces the suffering we feel when things don't go as planned.
Now, you also told a story about Mark, an entrepreneur who is dealing with burnout. How did non-attachment play a role in his journey?
Oh, Mark's story is a good one. He had achieved a lot of external success, money, recognition, all the things our culture tells us we should strive for. But he had this relentless need for more. He was so attached to those external markers of success that it led to chronic stress and anxiety and this feeling of never being satisfied. And through meditation, he started to see this pattern. He realized he had placed his happiness in these external things, which are always changing, always unstable. And so he began to cultivate non-attachment. He shifted his focus to projects that he really cared about, aligned with his values, not just chasing external rewards. And what's interesting is this detachment from the outcome actually led him to even greater success, but also, more importantly, a deeper sense of fulfillment and inner peace.
It's like a paradox, right?
Yeah.
We loosen our grip and we end up finding more satisfaction. And speaking of finding more satisfaction, I think it's time to bring in this concept of compassion. It might seem like a separate topic, but it's really intertwined with this journey towards peace and connection.
Absolutely.
So let's explore that. Compassion as a path to transformation. We often think of compassion as being kind to others. But how does this outward act actually contribute to our own personal growth and well-being?
Well, in Buddhism, compassion is this deep wish for all beings to be free from suffering. And that includes ourselves. So while it definitely involves extending kindness and care outwards, it starts with cultivating compassion for ourselves. And even research in psychology shows that practicing self-compassion, empathy, has so many benefits. Like it leads to greater happiness, more resilience when things are tough, and it reduces anxiety and depression.
So it's not just a nice thing to do, it's actually good for us.
Yes. And meditation is a fantastic tool for cultivating compassion because it helps us see our shared humanity. When we sit in stillness and we observe our own experiences, our struggles, our desires, our vulnerabilities, we start to realize that these are universal. Everyone experiences these things. This dissolves those barriers we put up between ourselves and others. It fosters this sense of interconnectedness, of empathy.
And you shared a story about Emily, the teacher who was struggling with impatience. How did cultivating compassion play a role in her transformation?
Right. Emily was finding herself constantly frustrated and impatient with her students, and it was draining her. She felt resentful by the end of the day, so she started practicing loving kindness meditation. It's a specific type where you intentionally cultivate feelings of warmth, goodwill, compassion. And you direct it to yourself first, then to loved ones, then to neutral people, even to difficult people, and finally to all beings. And at first it felt a bit awkward for her, a bit forced. But as she kept practicing, her perspective shifted. She started to see her students not as just being disruptive or difficult, but as young people with their own challenges, their own struggles. And this brought in empathy and understanding. Her impatience softened. She found herself responding with more patience, more kindness. And that created a calmer, more positive environment for everyone in the classroom.
It's amazing how that internal shift from judgment to compassion actually changes our outer reality, how we interact with others. And it's a good reminder that compassion doesn't have to be these grand gestures.
Exactly. Often it's the little things. Small acts of kindness, listening to someone, helping out, offering forgiveness, both to ourselves and to others. Those are the things that have the biggest impact.
Okay, so we've covered the foundation of a 30-day meditation practice. But how do we take this sense of mindfulness and compassion and weave it into everyday life, beyond just our formal meditation sessions?
That's where the real integration happens, and the lasting transformation. And there are so many simple ways to bring mindfulness into your daily routine. One powerful practice is mindful eating. Instead of rushing through your meals, distracted by your phone or TV, take the time to really savor the food. Notice the textures, the flavors, the smells. Chew slowly. This helps you enjoy your meals more, improves digestion, and helps you tune in to your body's signals of hunger and fullness.
I know, I'm definitely guilty of eating mindlessly sometimes, so that's a great reminder.
Another one is mindful walking. Whether you're taking a walk in nature or just walking from your car to the office, bring your attention to the sensations of walking. The feel of your feet on the ground, the movement of your body, the rhythm of your steps. And notice what's around you with this open curiosity. It helps you ground yourself in the present moment, and it can turn even a mundane activity into something more mindful.
This sounds like a lovely way to bring in those moments of presence, even on a busy day.
Yes. And finally, mindful listening. This is a game changer in our relationships. When someone's speaking to you, really make the effort to give them your full attention. Don't interrupt, don't plan your response in your head while they're talking. Just listen with an open heart, trying to understand their perspective. It deepens connections, improves communication, and cultivates empathy.
These are all some practical ways to take that meditation practice off the cushion and into our lives. It's about creating those little pockets of stillness and awareness all throughout the day.
Precisely. And these seemingly small moments, when we do them consistently, they start to reshape our relationship with ourselves and the world around us. Meditation, it's really a gateway to self-discovery, empowerment, and deeper connection. Through mindfulness, non-attachment, compassion. But as we've been discussing, it's important to integrate these insights into our daily lives for real lasting change to happen.
And that brings us to the final part of our deep dive today, witnessing the butterfly effect. So we've explored these seeds of transformation, how to nurture them. Now we're going to look at how those seemingly small shifts can lead to big, far-reaching changes in your life and in the world.
That metaphor of the butterfly effect, it's so powerful. Just like that tiny flutter of a butterfly's wings under the right conditions can eventually influence weather patterns on the other side of the planet. The consistent practice of something like meditation, even though it seems small, can set in motion a cascade of positive changes in your life, changes you might not even imagine right now.
It speaks to that interconnectedness of everything, how our actions, even the subtle ones, have consequences that ripple outward. And in Buddhist philosophy, this connects to the concept of everyday enlightenment, right? The idea that we can find moments of awakening, of insight, right in the midst of our ordinary lives.
Exactly. It's not about striving for some extraordinary state that's separate from our daily experience. It's about cultivating this quality of awareness that allows us to see the sacred in the ordinary, to find peace and insight no matter what we're doing. And the Dalai Lama, he expressed this beautifully when he said, happiness is not something ready-made. It comes from your own actions. And the quality of our actions, it's so deeply influenced by the quality of our attention in each moment.
It's like we can transform the ordinary into the extraordinary just by how we choose to see and experience it. You gave a great example earlier about approaching a typical morning routine with more awareness. Can we walk through that again to illustrate this principle?
Sure. Imagine waking up in the morning and intentionally bringing awareness to each simple action. So you're brushing your teeth, you're really present with the sensations, the taste of the toothpaste, you're making coffee, you're appreciating the aroma, the warmth of the mug in your hand, you're talking to a loved one, you're really listening to their words, making eye contact, giving them your full presence. It's the same routine, but your level of engagement, it's shifted. And this is right mindfulness in action, participating fully in whatever you're doing in this present moment. No distractions, no judgments.
And those little shifts in awareness all throughout our day, they have a cumulative effect, don't they?
Absolutely. When you approach life with this presence, with authenticity, people feel it. Your mindfulness becomes this catalyst for deeper connection, more trust, and even new opportunities can emerge.
Now, we live in a culture that loves overnight success, instant gratification. But as we've talked about, real growth, it's gradual. How does this idea of the butterfly effect highlight how important consistency is in our meditation practice, even when we don't see those big results right away?
The butterfly effect is such a good reminder that even small actions, repeated consistently over time, can lead to amazing results. Each time you meditate, no matter how short or imperfect it feels, it's like another flap of the butterfly's wings. It's contributing to a bigger pattern of positive change within you.
It's like compound interest, but for our well-being, right? These small investments add up over time.
Exactly. James Clear, in his book, Atomic Habits, he talks about this so well. Just like reading a few pages a day can lead to reading dozens of books over a year, even a few minutes of meditation each day, it builds resilience, mental clarity, inner peace over time. So if you've started your 30-day journey or you're thinking about it, remember, consistency is key, especially at the beginning. Even on the days when it feels hard, your mind is busy, those little moments of practice, they matter.
And this leads to another fascinating concept that we see in Eastern philosophy, the paradox of effortless effort, or in Zen, it's called wu-wei. Can you explain how meditation can help us cultivate this idea of doing less to achieve more?
Yeah, well, wait. It's not about being passive or lazy. It's more about aligning your actions with the natural flow of life, without forcing or resisting. It's this intuitive action that comes from a quiet, centered mind. And meditation helps us cultivate this because it quiets the mental chatter, so we can tap into this deeper wisdom, this intuition. Instead of constantly trying to control outcomes, we learn to surrender to the flow, to work with it.
So it's like working with the current rather than against it.
Exactly, and this is so powerful. It can enhance creativity, productivity, help us navigate challenges, solve problems. When we're in this state of wu-wei, Solutions just seem to emerge more naturally. We tap into this deeper insight.
You mentioned Steve Jobs earlier and his connection to Zen practice. Do you think this principle of effortless effort played a role in his work and his approach to innovation?
I think it's very likely. Steve Jobs was known for his focus, his intuition, and his ability to simplify complex technology. And a lot of people believe his Zen practice contributed to those qualities. Through meditation, he cultivated this quiet, focused mind, which allowed him to access that deeper intuition, that clarity. He could see through the complexity and create products that felt both innovative and intuitive to use. It's a great example of how inner stillness can lead to profound outward creativity.
It's about getting out of our own way, quieting the ego so those creative solutions can emerge naturally. And as our inner transformation deepens, you mentioned this ripple effect. Can you talk more about this interconnectedness and how our inner work affects the world around us?
In Buddhism, interconnectedness is a fundamental principle. It's the understanding that all beings, all things are interconnected. And so our thoughts, our words, our actions, they all have an impact, subtle but real, on this collective consciousness. When we intentionally cultivate more peace, compassion, understanding within ourselves, it radiates outward. It affects the people we're in contact with. It contributes to creating a more harmonious environment.
And you mentioned Thich Nhat Hanh earlier and his global impact through his teachings on mindfulness and compassion.
Yes, Thich Nhat Hanh. His lifelong dedication to inner peace has touched millions of people around the world. His work in promoting peace and understanding, even in the face of suffering and conflict, shows us just how powerful this ripple effect can be. And while our own individual journeys might not be on that global scale, the shifts we make towards kindness, patience, awareness, they have an impact on our families, our communities, even our interactions with strangers.
It's a beautiful reminder that our inner work isn't just for us. It contributes to the well-being of everyone, to a more compassionate and mindful world. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's your final call to action? What message do you want to leave our listener with?
My final encouragement to you is this. Embrace this opportunity, embrace this challenge. Commit to starting or continuing your 30-day exploration of meditation. There will be ups and downs, that's part of the journey. But what matters is your intention, your willingness to show up for yourself one breath at a time. You have this incredible capacity for transformation. And by cultivating inner peace, you not only enrich your own life, but you contribute to a more compassionate world. Trust in your potential, trust the process, and witness that beautiful ripple effect unfold.
That's such a beautiful message. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today.
It was my pleasure.
Consider this, your commitment to cultivating inner peace, however small it might seem, it sends out ripples of calm and understanding into the world. What ripples will you create? Take some time now to reflect on that potential for transformation within you and on the insights you've gained today. And if you feel inspired, we encourage you to keep exploring these principles and these practices in your own life.